Critics of John Adams started calling him his Rotundity after they noticed he was putting on a few extra lbs. People called Thomas Jefferson Long Tom because he was about 6 inches taller than the average person at the turn of the 19th century. Warhawks who wanted James Madison to start the War of 1812 called him his Little Majesty. Martin Van Buren was called the Careful Dutchman, Martin Van Ruin, Matty Van, the Red Fox of Kinderhook, and the Little Magician. Look him up if you want to know why. People called William Henry Harrison Old Granny because at 68, people argued that he was too old to rule. He died 3 weeks after his inauguration and still holds the record for the shortest presidency. John Tyler was dubbed his Accidency because nobody really thought about a vice president becoming president until Harrison died. Zachary Taylor earned the name Old Rough and Ready because he was known to get in the trenches with his troops during the Mexican-American War. James Buchanan was called the Bachelor President because he was the only president not to have a first lady, but I prefer his other nickname, Old Public Functionary. Honest Abe was also called the Grand Wrestler because he was supposedly a pretty good wrestler and even wrestled people inside the White House. Southerners weren't too happy about Rutherford B. Hayes winning the election of 1876, so they called him his Fraudulency and Rutherfraud. Chester Arthur was nicknamed Gentleman Boss and Dude President for his sense of style. At 250 pounds, Grover Cleveland gained the nicknames Uncle Jumbo, Big Steve, and Stuffed Prophet. Calvin Coolidge didn't say too much, so everyone just called him Silent Cow. Many of FDR's opponents called him King Franklin because he just kept on getting reelected. Earlier in his career, Nixon was called Tricky Dick, and we eventually all figured out what that was about. Reagan was called the Teflon President because no matter what he did, the people still loved him. Bill Clinton was called Slick Willie because, well, you know why. A liberal columnist supposedly called George W. Bush Shrub, but I gotta admit I haven't really heard anybody say that. What are your favorite presidential nicknames?